What's up, world? It's your boy TNT back at it one more again with Try Nitro Reacts, and we're gonna be reacting to the worst deaths of 2025 by the Red Stick Man. Let's go ahead and get into it and see how people left the server last year. Ooh.
January, the Sloth Bear Attack. On the morning of January 18th, 2025, Suklal Daro and his father, Shankar, headed into the Korar forest in Chhattisgarh, India, to gather firewood. They had done this many times before and knew the area well. The forest seemed quiet that day, and nothing felt out of place as they walked along the familiar trail near Jailankasa Hill. What they did not know was that a sloth bear was hiding nearby in the brush. This bear was sick with rabies, which affected its central nervous system, causing disorientation, fear response amplification, and uncharacteristic attack behaviors, making it extremely dangerous. The bear suddenly charged out from the undergrowth and went straight for Suklal, striking him and inflicting severe damage to his face and chest. His screams were so loud that Forest Ranger Narayan Yadav heard them from a distance and rushed toward the sound. He tried to scare the bear off, yelling and waving his arms, and for a moment it worked. The bear
Yelling and waving your arm? How you a park ranger and you ain't got no gun? Are they not allowed to have guns over in India? The hell?
Stopped mauling Suklal, but then the bear turned
Jumped
on
on
Narayan,
him?
tearing into his arms and chest. He barely managed to pull himself away, and once he escaped, the bear returned to finish its attack on Suklal. Shankar saw his son being attacked and ran in to save him, but the bear struck him with such force that he died instantly in one hit. Villagers tried to rush Suklal to the hospital, but his injuries were too severe, and he died on the way. What started as an ordinary morning ended with 2 deaths, all because of one sick bear. The butterfly injection. On February 5th, 2025, 14-year-old Davy Nunes Moreira from Planalto, Brazil, was scrolling through TikTok and saw a trend of people crushing butterflies, mixing them with water, and injecting the mixture into their skin. He thought, what an easy challenge. So he decided to try it himself. He caught a butterfly, mashed it up, added water, and used a needle to inject it into his right leg. A few hours later, he started feeling sick. His leg hurt badly and began to swell up. He also started throwing up and could not walk properly. What he didn't know was that the butterfly parts he had injected himself with were carrying bacteria along with cardiac glycoside toxins that can be deadly when introduced directly into human blood. But Davy was scared to tell his father what he had really done. So when his dad asked what was wrong, he lied and said he got hurt while playing. The next day, the infection worsened, but Davy remained quiet about it. His father got worried and rushed him to the hospital in Planalto, where Davy finally told him the truth. Doctors saw how serious it was and moved him to a bigger hospital in Vitoria da Conquista. But by then, it was too late. Davy spent 7 days in terrible pain at the hospital before dying on February 13th. After his death, his father found the syringe Davy had used hidden under his pillow. March, the SUV accident. On March 6th, 2025, just after lunch at Washington Middle School in Seattle, 12-year-old Arsma McConnon was walking outside with her friends along the sidewalk on 20th Place South. She was heading to recess, and everything seemed normal that day. Up the hill from where she stood, a 51-year-old woman had just parked her GMC Acadia SUV in a spot where parking was not allowed. She got out of the vehicle and walked away, unaware that the gear wasn't fully in park. Within moments, the SUV started rolling backward down the hill. At first, it moved slowly, but then it picked up speed as gravity pulled it down the slope. There was no engine noise and no warning sounds, just a heavy vehicle gaining momentum as it traveled down the street. The SUV rolled about 75 yards before it reached the bottom of the hill and went up onto the sidewalk where Arsma and 2 other students were walking. Arsma was hit with tremendous force and died right there at the scene. The other 2 students were also struck, but survived. Police investigated what happened and confirmed that the vehicle had been parked incorrectly on the hill in a no parking area and that the driver had not secured it properly. They tested the driver for drugs and alcohol, which is standard procedure, but found nothing. After finishing their investigation, police announced that the driver would not face criminal charges.
What? That should have been criminal negligence or something because she parked in an area that said no parking, and then she didn't even make sure that the fucking emergency brake was on or it was in park. Man.
Summer's father spoke publicly about his pain, asking, "Who killed my kid? Tell me." April, the elevator incident. On April 12, 2025, Dr. Akbar, a 39-year-old doctor, was at his apartment complex in Sri Krishna Nagar, Kutbulapur, in Hyderabad, India, when something terrible happened. He and some other residents were playing cricket in the common area of the building when someone hit the ball in the wrong direction and it rolled into the elevator shaft. The ball landed at the bottom of the shaft and was sitting there where everyone could see it. Dr. Akbar decided to reach in and grab it because it looked like an easy thing to do. He went over to the elevator doors on the ground floor and leaned into the opening, stretching his arm down toward the ball. What he did not know was that the elevator car was sitting on one of the upper floors, and someone in the building had just pressed the button to call it. As Dr. Akbar reached into the shaft with his head and upper body inside, the elevator began descending. There was no sound or warning that it was coming, and before he could pull himself out, the heavy elevator car came down and crushed him. The impact caused severe injuries to his head, and he died right there at the scene. May. Run it straight. Challenge. On Saturday, May 24, 2025, 19-year-old Ryan Satterthwaite went to a friend's birthday party in Palmerston North, New Zealand, where people were having fun and filming things for social media. At some point during the gathering, someone suggested playing a viral game called Run It Straight, which had been spreading online across New Zealand. The game is exactly what it sounds like. Two people run at each other as fast as they can and smash into each other without wearing helmets or any kind of protection. Ryan decided to give it a try. He sprinted forward and collided with the other person at full speed, with an impact nearly 5 times stronger than a typical rugby tackle. Ryan fell to the ground right after the hit, and at first his friends thought he had just gotten the wind knocked out of him, but he was not responding normally. He had suffered a severe head injury, and his friends immediately took him to Palmerston North Hospital. Doctors performed emergency surgery to try to save him, but the damage to his brain was too severe. Ryan died on Monday night, May 26th. Later, the doctors explained that the blow likely triggered second impact syndrome, a rare but deadly condition where the brain swells rapidly after a second concussion, even when it doesn't look serious on the outside. The polo match bee sting. On June 12, 2025, 53-year-old Sanjay Kapoor was playing polo at the Guards Polo Club in Windsor, England, one of the most famous polo venues in the world, and a place where even members of the royal family come to play. Kapoor was a billionaire businessman who ran a global car parts company called Sona Comstar, and he loved polo so much that he had even played matches with Prince William. That afternoon, his team was competing in the subsidiary final of the Queen's Cup against a team called Sujan Tigers, and everything seemed to be going normally. While Kapoor was riding across the field with his mouth open, a bee flew into his mouth, traveled down his throat, and stung him from the inside. People standing nearby heard him yell out, "I've swallowed something," just before things went terribly wrong. The bee sting caused a severe allergic reaction called anaphylactic shock, which happens when the immune system overreacts to something and floods the body with chemicals. His blood pressure dropped fast, and his throat started swelling up on the inside, which made it impossible for him to breathe properly. The swelling and the drop in blood pressure put too much stress on his heart, and within minutes he had a heart attack and collapsed right there on the polo field. Emergency responders tried to save him, but they could not reverse what was happening, and he died shortly after. Doctors explained that stings inside the mouth or throat are extremely dangerous because the swelling can block airways within seconds, leaving almost no time to help. July. The MRI magnet death. On July 16th, 2025, 61-year-old Keith McAllister went with his wife Adrian to Nassau Open MRI in Westbury, New York for her knee scan. Keith was known for always wearing a 20-pound metal chain around his neck, a piece of weight training equipment he rarely took off. After Adrian finished her scan, she needed help getting off the MRI table and asked the technician to call Keith into the room. The technician let him walk right into the MRI room without checking him for metal objects, and nobody seemed to notice the heavy chain he was wearing as he stepped through the doorway. The second Keith entered the room, the MRI machine's powerful magnet grabbed the iron chain and turned it into a deadly projectile. Adrian watched as the machine snatched her husband, spinning him around and pulling him violently into the front of the scanner. The chain wrapped tight around his neck and chest, and the magnetic force pinned him against the machine so hard that neither Adrian nor the technician could pull him free, no matter how hard they tried. Adrian begged them to turn off the machine and call for help, but Keith remained stuck to the MRI for almost an entire hour before emergency workers finally managed to shut down the magnet and get him loose. By that point, the crushing pressure and lack of air had caused him to suffer several heart attacks. Keith went limp in Adrian's arms and was rushed to the hospital, where he died the following afternoon. August, the trash streamer death. On August 5th, 2025, 46-year-old Raphael Graven started a 300-hour marathon livestream from a rented room in Conte, a village near Nice, France. Streaming under the name Jean Pormanov on Kick, he told viewers the broadcast would not stop until donations reached 40,000 euros. Raphael was a former soldier who had built a following online, but his content had shifted from gaming to what French reporters called trash streaming, where people endured abuse and humiliation for money. For nearly 12 days straight, other streamers kept Raphael awake by revving motorcycles near his face, blasting him with leaf blowers, slapping him repeatedly, choking him, and dumping water on him whenever he started to drift off. Viewers sent donations every time something painful happened. What most viewers did not know.
Oh, why do they even let this type of shit go on with live streaming? Like, they shouldn't even allow people to do shit like this, man. And see what happens when you just let people do trash shit online. He done lost his life because people will pay to see somebody get beat up and just done horribly online. Like, that is so fucking crazy.
Was that Raphael had serious heart problems and thyroid issues, both of which put strain on his body even without adding 12 days of no sleep and constant abuse. On August 17th, after a particularly hard slap, Raphael asked someone to call the hospital, but nobody did. Around 1 in the morning on August 18th, everyone went to sleep, including Raphael. Hours passed, and viewers noticed he was no longer moving. Some sent donation alerts hoping the sounds would wake him, but he stayed still. Nobody called emergency services. When the other streamers finally checked on him, they cut the broadcast. Raphael was already dead, his body pushed beyond what it could survive after nearly 13 days of torture disguised as entertainment. September, the robotic pizza killer. On the morning of September 17th, 2025, 45-year-old Robert Sharon started his shift at the Palermo's Pizza Factory in West Milwaukee just after 6:30 in the morning. Robert, who lived in Elkhorn with his wife Emily and their 3 sons, worked as a bakery manager at the facility and had spent years in the food production industry. The factory floor was filled with massive robotic palletizers, which are automated machines that lift and stack hundreds of pounds of frozen pizzas without stopping. These machines are built to move fast and non-stop, and they can't detect when a person steps into an area meant only for products. At some point during his shift, Robert ended up in the path of one of these robotic arms. The machine struck him with its full force and crushed him. His co-workers realized what had happened and called emergency services right away. Police and firefighters from West Milwaukee arrived within minutes and tried everything they could to save him, but the injuries were too severe. Robert was pronounced dead at the scene. The medical examiner confirmed that he died from crushing injuries caused by the robotic palletizer. OSHA opened an investigation to figure out what went wrong, and workers at the factory were sent home for the day. Palermo's Pizza released a statement calling it a tragic accident, but the factory was open the next day.
What?
October, the giant hornet swarm. On October 15th, 2025, 47-year-old Daniel Owen and his 15-year-old son Cooper went to Green Jungle Park near Luang Prabang, Laos, for a zip-lining adventure through the jungle. Daniel worked as the director of QSI International School in Vietnam and was on vacation with his son. The two of them strapped into harnesses and followed their guide across steel cables that stretched between huge trees high above the ground. The park had been running for 10 years without any serious accidents, so nothing seemed dangerous that morning. As Daniel and Cooper started descending from one of the platforms, they accidentally disturbed a nest of Asian giant hornets hidden inside the tree. These hornets are the largest in the world, and their venom can cause severe organ damage. The insects poured out in a massive swarm and attacked both of them relentlessly. People watching could only stand there as the hornets covered their bodies, stinging them over and over again. When rescuers pulled them away and rushed them to a nearby clinic, the doctor counted more than 100 sting marks all over their skin. Dr. Phanomzi Fakin said their bodies were covered in red spots and that it was the worst case he had ever seen. Both Daniel and Cooper were conscious when they arrived and were not showing signs of allergic shock, but the massive amount of venom quickly overwhelmed them. They were moved to Luang Prabang Provincial Hospital, but within hours, both father and son died.
Damn.
November, the Dunk Incident. On the morning of November 25th, 2025, 16-year-old Hardik Rathi arrived at the basketball court in Lakan Madra village, Rohtak, ready for another day of training. Hardik was not just a casual player, but a national-level athlete who had already competed in major championships across India, including tournaments in Kangra, Hyderabad, and Puducherry, where he had won medals. The day before, he had told his father with complete confidence that he would play for India in 2026. That morning, he was practicing dunks, which was something he had done hundreds of times before. Around 10:30, Hardik ran toward the hoop, jumped up, grabbed the rim with both hands and hung there for a second. CCTV cameras recorded what happened next. The iron pole holding up the basketball hoop, which had been rusting away under layers of paint, suddenly broke at the base and collapsed forward. The heavy pole fell directly onto Hardik's chest, knocking him to the ground and trapping him underneath. His teammates saw what happened and ran over to lift the pole off him. They rushed him to the hospital as fast as they could, but the damage to his internal organs was too severe, and Hardik died later that day. After his death, people found out that players had complained multiple times about the pole being unsafe. The government gave money in 2023 to fix the court, but the repairs were never completed. Hardik's family blamed the sports department for ignoring the warnings. December, the car in the pool. On December 3rd, 2025, 3 teenagers were driving through Alès in southern France around 2 in the morning. It had been raining hard all night. The boys were 14, 15, and 19 years old, and the oldest one owned the car, a Peugeot 207. They had been out doing stunts and racing around town. The roads were slick from the rain. When the car hit a curve, it skidded out of control and smashed through a garden wall. The vehicle flipped completely over and landed upside down in a backyard swimming pool, with the roof fully underwater. The 3 boys were trapped inside. The pool was small, almost the exact width of the car, and when they tried to open the doors, they couldn't. The pool walls were pressed right against them, leaving no space for the doors to swing open. They remained stuck in that freezing water for 4 hours. At 6 in the morning, the homeowner, a local baker, came home and saw his wall destroyed and a car sitting in his pool. He called for help right away. Firefighters arrived quickly, but they couldn't reach the boys immediately. The vehicle was wedged so tightly in the pool that the only way to access it was to drain all the water out first. By the time they pulled the car out, all 3 teenagers were dead. They had drowned. Police later found laughing gas canisters in the vehicle, and tests showed the 19-year-old driver had cannabis and alcohol in his system.
Man, those were some terrible deaths, man. At least like 4 of them could have been preventative. People wouldn't have been so damn stupid. But yeah, man, there was some terrible ways to go. But if y'all like the video and you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's your boy TNT with Try Nitro Reacts. Oh man, that was kind of bleak. Y'all stay prayed up and be safe out there. Yeah.